Welcome to The Hot Switch with your host, Alli Mang, bringing you the best from leaders, comebackers, and instigators from around the world. Every episode, we put each other on the hot seat to exchange the kind of hard-won wisdom and transformative ideas that will shift your perspective and fuel your next move. This is The Hot Switch. Hi, and welcome to The Hot Switch. Where my guests put me on the hot seat as much as I put them on the hot seat. Today's guest, of course, as you well know, is Dagmar Khan. Dagmar, welcome to our space here. How are you today?
I am doing amazing, and I am excited for our conversation today. Let's do this.
Ooh, let's do it. Well, you know, I've started a bit of a tradition, and so I'm going to light this candle, and that will go on for the entire conversation. And I love leading a light on because I think we all deserve a little bit of extra elevation anytime we get. And as I always say, it's one of my mantras. Let's remember, wonderful things are taking place right now. So, my darling, it's your turn. Put me on the hot seat. What do you want to know?
I would love to do this. And we are speaking about methodologies today. So right from the start, I want to truly acknowledge that you have done something incredibly rare in our space, which is you haven't just mastered the craft of live TV performance and your career of doing that over 35 years, but you have actually taken your lived experience and turned that into 21 proprietary methodologies and written 6 books. So what that means is you have taken some instinctual knowing and your lived experience and turned that into methods and bodies of work. So I would love to ask really from a vantage point of view, what do you see in leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who might have a deep mastery of their craft, but struggle with packaging it in a way that can sell, that can scale, and that can possibly even create movement?
Wow. That's a big question. Thank you for your thoughtful question. And what I would say is this. It comes from the need to express, the need to illuminate, the need to clear doubt, to rise above apathy, to say thank you, to know how to ask for business. And all of that is part of a strategy that I use a lot. It's called a pitch strategies, the lily pad pitch strategy. And why I say that in kind of just regular terms is if you think about it, I remember I sat down when I wrote my first book, and this was actually my first book, sold out. Whoops. Well, where's the camera? There we are.
We can
sold
see
out.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. How to sell out on the Worldwide Shopping Channel stage. And I remember I was feeling apathetic, frankly. And I thought, what am I doing? I got all these skills. I don't know how to, got all this experience. I published this in 2014. So that was 12 years ago. I'd done a lot of stuff prior to that, but I didn't know how to bring it all together. And I was, had the concern of getting older and what am I going to be doing here? All of these things that we all go through. So I decided to go to a weekend course, and I think I spent $500. I thought, well, sometimes these weekend courses can be thousands of dollars. I thought, okay, this is a good investment, and I'm just going to show up. And it was good. Not all of it was good, but I was there not to be impressed, but I was there to listen to what ignited my heart. I talked about that, ignite. Because if my heart wasn't ignited, and that's what I needed, and that's why I was saying I was feeling quite apathetic. Just, who cares? Is anyone going to care? And, that's not where you need to be, but it's an honest place where all of us do land sometimes. The idea is to get out of it. And that's also sometimes a project. Anyway, Towards the end of the 3 days that I was there, the facilitator who, was the keynote, and but he brought in other guest speakers, and he said, everybody has a book in them after the age of 40 because you have whatever it is. You're into cars, you know how to fix those. You're into social media. I mean, just at that time, it was just kind of on the cusp of it. We were all kind of floundering, whatever. But you have expertise in something. Write about it. And I just went, what? I do. I had been on the Shopping Channel. I started that in 2014. And because of my acting career and all the different things and selling steel and plate and mooring chain, writing SOPs for all kinds of different industries, I thought, my gosh, what a good way to kind of pool all of what I know into one space. Because he said, knowledge will always, always, always be the number one asset that you can share and build from and leverage. And I thought, again, okay, now this was before AI and all these other advancements. But that would be my advice to anybody. Your expertise. Let's spend some time. And I do. I work with clients. It's my 10 chapters, 10 weeks. Let's get it into play, and you can do it.
Absolutely amazing. I'm getting so inspired by your facilitator of this workshop, and it's igniting a knowing inside of me that I have book that needs to be brought into the world. And obviously following your own lead, Alli, of 6 books. You are my absolute role model in this space. And I would love to take a moment to actually create a little bit like a high level overview when someone is listening to this. Okay, what does it look like, at least at a high picture level, to take your brilliance, to take your genius and genuinely start codifying it? Because what I believe is that legacy businesses or legacy movements, they are not built on charisma alone. They are built on architecture. They are built on methodology. In other words, when our intellectual property is codified into a strong intentional framework, our brilliance stops being dependent on us, and it has really phenomenal and exquisite potential to start compounding over time. So there are kind of like 3D patterns that I see preventing people who have incredible expertise, incredible genius inside of them to grow a movement or scale their body of work or scale their business. Number one, their genius is contextual. And what that means is they can be brilliant when they are, let's say, facilitating workshop or being on stage or doing presentation, but nothing seemed to be working beyond their expression or beyond their presentation. Their methodology might be alive in their brain or in their body, in their nervous system, but not on a page, not in a book like yours, Alli. So if they are, let's say, launching program or certain experience, everything, every single time is rebuilt from scratch. And growing anything or scaling anything feels like they need to clone themselves. That's not where we want to be, right?
That's true.
Number 2. Thank you. Number 2, the work often lives in the doing instead of describing it or teaching it. So what I mean by that, knowing the transformational space really well over the last 20 years, they can, let's say, facilitate really good transformation with a client, but they struggle to explain what has happened or how they made it a reality. So when they bump into someone and they're being asked is like, how do you do what you do? Like, help me understand your magic. The answer can become like this 20 minutes, a long story instead of simple explanation that can take place in 2 to 3 sentences and someone can just get it in an instant. And
may I interrupt you?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, you're totally on a track. And what I love is the specificity that you have in each one of these, questions. And that really is the key. We can get to that in different ways. But here's mine. Tell me, show me, prove it. Tell me,
show me, prove it.
Show me, prove it. And that covers it all. So you said, I hope simplicity, that's true. That's the basis of what I did when I sold on Shopping Channel. That was the basis of what I've always done. Acting, whether I'm on film, whether I'm on camera, whether I'm behind the camera, tell me, show me, prove it. You can think about it as, any posts, any emails. What are you going to tell them? How are you going to show that? And how are you going to prove it? And it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but if you use that, it engages every single part of your sensory mechanism. Go, continue.
Amazing. So number 3, when we are looking at what does prevent really incredible leaders or brilliant experts or geniuses to grow their movement and scale their body of work, number 3 is they often get to confuse depth with complexity. And what I mean by that is there is this really deep fear that if they structure what they do so well, it will somehow mitigate or even flatten the impact. It's almost like having a framework or having methodology is going to diminish the impact. It's going to have impact on the nuance. But here is the reframe I would love everyone to truly embrace, which is a well-designed framework, a well-designed methodology doesn't limit our work. It, in fact, protects its integrity. It prevents dilution of what you do as you grow and scale. And in a simple language, it ensures that your 1,000th client receives the power of your work as well as your very first customer. What do you think, Alli?
I couldn't agree more. Business only starts with one customer at a time. And you need to think of it that way. I used to coin a phrase called the New World approach, which is, as an actor, whoever comes into your space, it's a new world. And you have to be alive to it. In Shopping Channel world, when you are live, and in broadcasting, the same thing when I did live broadcasting, sometimes you're supposed to not acknowledge that the ladder just fell or, somebody tripped or somebody sneezed. But in live, you want that. It's a great way to leverage the fact that you are here. Humans still get to win the prize here. As many of the machines and everything that we're using to leverage our own abilities are amazing. Let's remember machines cannot hug us and touch us heart to heart. And that's the biggest thing. So just back to it, your idea about, don't allow yourself to dilute the excitement and the illumination and all of those great things that you had with the first customer when you were probably a little bit tentative and, oh my gosh, is this going to work? Are they going to like me? Are they going to like the product? That wonderful river of excitement, because you care so much, and maybe even the nervousness, should always be there. If you come into any kind of a situation where you're just kind of, yeah, here we go again. That's not what A-listers do. And we are A-listers. We are leaders. So you always have to engage into that. And I have many techniques as to how to do that.
I can completely imagine. And I love that you have a little bit dwelled into what we were looking at in our first episode, just like the fluidity of experience and fluidity of approach. So speaking about fluidity and speaking about framework, let me give our listeners just a very high-level overview of what does it look like to sit down and think through either building your first framework or fifth one or refining your framework. Really high-level overview. you want to think about three things, which is the how, the why, and the who. The how, the why, and the who. So the how is obviously your repeatable method or your process, the steps that ultimately lead to the ideal outcome, the ideal result that your customer is trying to achieve. And steps aside, usually there is a deeper thought process that's required around the sequencing of the steps that actually leads to the results that your customer is trying to achieve. And I can imagine, Ali, when you were building your methodologies, the sequencing alone has taken some thought process. Am I sensing it right?
100%. On 100%. I can talk about that later, but I do want to hear your pieces because I have a post that I came up with yesterday that may be a great button to what you're saying. So I want to stay on track with what you're saying. But yes, I do have a sequence and it's most important. The best way I can say it, as a marathon runner, I used to do many marathons, did my one and only half Ironman, which is 70.3 Ironman. And there's a sequence and it's simple. I want to run a marathon. That's 42.2 kilometers. I can't do that today. I can't even walk a kilometer. So the lofty goal is there. Let's keep it. Let's keep it us excited and let's have that umbilical cord knowing that that's our goal. And that is a lofty goal, let me tell you. Now you got to back it up. Okay. Probably get a program or get a coach or whatever you choose to do and where your budget is. There's lots of running clubs and then you join. And then it gives you, let's say, a 17-week course to last is your end game. And that's a marathon. But you need a foundation. Then you need strength. Then you need speed. Then the peak performance at the top of that peak is, of course, the race. So I turned that whole triangle that I had at the peak and I turn it upside down and make the foundation first. Then I get into, all of those things. So then it funnels through. So yes, there is a sequence to everything. And if you think about the marathon, you go, oh my God, that's so far away. Yeah, it is. Let's follow the sequence and let's make it happen little by little by little. And everything feeds into it, just like if you're pouring oil into your car.
Such a great example. I love how you have tied it with your process and training in marathon world and really highlighting the power of sequencing. What I like to always say to my clients is that sequencing is the secret sauce. Sequencing is the secret sauce when it comes to building our bodies of work, building our methodologies. So that's the what. Let's speak about the why, which is definitely something I am most passionate about. You know that, Ali, I'm an incredibly passionate person and I deeply care about our whys in the world. So the why around methodology building, framework building is the philosophy and the promise underneath it. What do you do? What do you fundamentally believe about the sliver of transformation that you provide in the world, or sliver of experience, or something you can deliver to your clients in the world? Why does it matter? What are your convictions around it that actually makes your work, makes your approach, makes your framework really different? And taking it from my own professional experience, one of the methodologies I have built through my life is the Flourish Method, which was a very specific, very unique process to work with women around women's pelvic health issues. So anything from things like birth injuries all the way to incontinence and, that embarrassing problems that happens behind closed doors, all the way to menopausal issues. And the reason why I cared so much about this work in the world is actually because of my own journey. And I'm someone right now who is incredibly happy mother. I have my son, Rumi, who is 8, and he is the light of my life. He's literally the most important human being in my life. With that being said, Rumi has come to me, and I became pregnant with him after 10 years of infertility.
Wow.
After 10 years of struggling with getting pregnant. So you can imagine how much joy he brings into my life. But tying it back to the why, when I was really promoting and marketing and selling Flourish in the market space, I would be standing in that pillar of conviction of what this work can do in the world as someone who has healed 10 years of infertility without any medical intervention. And it created movement. So that's why. Now, finally, it is the who. The identity and the audience match. Obviously, who is your customer? Who is your client? Who is this framework, this method designed for? And what does it actually assume about them? What does it assume about their previous experience, about their state of readiness, about their desires, yearnings, and aspirations, but also about their capacities in the larger context of their entire life. So to recap this, a high level signature or like codifying your method is all about the what, your step-by-step process, remembering that the sequencing is the secret sauce. It is the why, your convictions behind why you do what you do, and obviously the who, the human that this is designed to be received by, and the human that is meant to be transformed by your work.
It's excellent. It's just exceptional. And thank you. I know that our listeners, our watchers are going to really appreciate that. One of the things I love about it, and the thing that I do with my methods, is I try to make it as simple as possible. The complexity of creating it is immense, of course. But just like the lily pad, you don't realize that there's 4, 5, 6 feet underneath of the root that has been created in order for that lily pad to just float effortlessly on top, looking like it's just the most beautiful and untouched piece. And yet it has a huge rooting in the bottom, which is what I love. And that's exactly what you've done. Listen, I want to take a break just for a moment, and we will be back. I know you have another question, but Dagmar, thank you so much for sharing just the way that you go about. And I know that you've inspired me certainly with that. And it's fun to sort of go back and go, oh yeah, I guess that's what I did do. So, and it's also great for new people and old people meaning more experience, who have done a ton and have a big breadth of stuff. And now you're making it so simple to sort of go, oh, I could do it too. We have to do some business. I want to share one of my dear, dear sponsors that is a partner of mine. And then I'm going to chase it because, Dagmar, I think this piece is a beautiful button to what you shared with us to really help and illustrate what you call the legacy of our work. Not that you've coined that, but let's face it, it's a beautiful way of setting it up. So we'll see you right after these important moments. Alli Mang here. Of all the people that could have been chosen, designer Ana Lucia Beltran asked me to host her live worldwide launch last year of her newest product, the world's first non-toxic luxury jewelry cleaner, safe for gold, silver, diamonds, and even pearls. Ana Lucia is the founder of the world's first designer lab-grown diamond brand. Her entire brand is sustainable luxury, ethically made at prices that make sense. Her pieces have been featured in Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee album. I'm proud to call her my friend, and even more proud to stand behind what she is building for today's women. For 15 years, I sold products all over the world on live shopping. Hundreds have approached me to talk up their products. I've said yes to a handful. Ana Lucia Diamonds and her entire company is one of them. It's time to switch it up. Oh my goodness. So, just to share a quick thing, my mom was a concert pianist. Now, she didn't end up doing that for a living because she was an oncology nurse. Thank you. Thank you so much. But she played that song, and she played it a lot on the grand piano, actually, that sits in my studio here. So when I saw that piece and I saw what that person decided to put the captions over top, hungry for music, doesn't that speak to what you've been talking about? The why, the how, this hungriness to communicate what you know deep in your soul that you want to help others and get it out of your own soul, because we don't own anything. So it's part of the universe to surrender it over. And that's a really important point. And I love to, in his entire life, he dedicated himself to the melody of music. Like, isn't that great? And then finally, the word cherished. And I think sometimes we forget, let's cherish what we're learning. Let's cherish the people we're meeting and the moments we're sharing. It's staying in that moment that we can leverage out. So, I hope you felt that was a good button to your segment, Dagmar, because we're going to move on now.
I am so moved. I really feel like there is a transcendental change in our energy and in the space that we are having this conversation in. And one of the pieces that stood out for me so deeply, actually two, is both the cherishing and the melody piece. And I genuinely believe that when we take time to codify the brilliance of our work into, again, framework, a method, a movement, we are cherishing and honoring our brilliance, as our brilliance can live beyond the vessel of our human body. So speaking of cherishing, I would love to invite you, Alli, to really walk me through the moment, or probably a series of moments, when you realized, as someone who is selling live on TV, to take your performance approach and all the expectations and deadlines and quotas that you were exposed to and turn that into methodology. Like, what were the questions that were happening for you? What were you thinking? How did you make this leap? Walk me through it.
I took a picture. Actually, I brought down a bunch of binders. Pardon me. Woo. Yeah. So you see all those binders at a glance, everything. That's actually my sold out book. I showed it earlier. That represents all the work, the prep work that I did to sell one line. It was a home goods line, soft, pillows and accessories and bathroom. And I just loved it. It was a product called Home Suite Collection, which I launched. And actually, it's still alive and well, being hosted by other people, but it's something really fun. Now I'm going to take one of the pieces out. Thank you, Victor, for showing that. I didn't know how else. Here it is. Here's one of them. And I'm all of a visual person. I learn audibly. Pardon me. I learn audibly, and but I also need to see it in a one pager. That's just how I learn. So I would create master scripts from everything I learned, and I would interview as many people as I could who touched the product, whether I was able to speak to them or even go and see. Like, I would travel 2 hours to go and sit with the manufacturers and watch how it all went, because it allowed me to really be in the space, that I wasn't just talking from my head, that it was in my body. So that when I had an opportunity to share, oh, you know what, it's so funny. I sat on the conveyor belt with the towels that were just coming out of our product, and here's a picture of me. So people can really, like, it's silly, but it adds a great element of humanity and fun. And it just delighted me. And anytime I shared that, it delighted the people. They were like, really? You were on a conveyor belt and then you were up there and then you watched how the cotton was actually put together and then how it was dyed. I mean, but it allows you then to talk very specifically about how the products are made and the care behind it. So that's all what I did. Master scripts were all about that. And then I put them on, this is obviously just very shiny, but I put them on a one pager here. And every word represented a sequence of things for me. And that's how I learned. Because in live, you don't have scripts. You don't have anything. Some people do use cue cards and stuff, but that to me was not going to allow me to just be really engaged in the host I was working with, the camera people I was working with, the producer that was in my ears telling me, okay, let's move on, keep squishing the towel, stop squishing the towel, the sales are up, the sales are down. You know, there's a lot going on, and to be very alive to it all. So my methods came out of what you saw. All of those pieces. And I started then categorizing them and titling them in a visual. I had stickies all over my entire office. And then I just started bringing those stickies into bigger subjects and bigger subjects. And as it turned out in my first book, as I showed you, my table of contents is kind of huge. Let's see if we can quickly flip through it. So there's one, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 pages of table of contents. Very, very specific, because what I want to do is I want to make you the expert. And if they come back to me, amazing, we can always do. But my project management days were all about, if someone comes back to me during the project, I would do big events, I would do huge trade shows. Then somewhere along the communication level, I didn't do as good a job as I could have. And so my job then is to always make it obvious for you to say yes and for you to become your own expert. And that is my why.
That is absolutely incredible. And what so deeply stands out for me, Alli, is truly immersing yourself in the environment of learning, but also experiencing, like having a direct lived experience with the products that you needed to sell and you were selling on live TV, and constantly be refining and retuning your language in a way that allows for the most incredible outcomes.
That's the hope, of course. And it needs to come from a genuine, heart-centered, like, then there's no canned messaging. Then, of course, you're thinking of your script. By the time you go live, it's got to be in you. And then you just have to trust that it's going to come out in the right way. And that just is part of it. And in fact, it makes me think about Victor. I don't know. Victor is our producer, and honest to God, he handles us so well. Do you happen to have that Bowie piece that I sent you a few days ago? Thank you. I think this is the perfect time to show that. And then we'll be right back.
Always remember that the reason that you initially started working was that there was something inside yourself that you felt that if you could manifest it in some way, you would understand more about yourself and how you coexist with the rest of society. And I think it's terribly dangerous for an artist to fulfill other people's expectations. I think they generally produce their worst work when they do that. And if the other thing I would say is that if you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
Yes! I love that so much! Oh my gosh! Sorry.
The ongoing evolution of a performer.
Correct. And safety, interestingly enough, I remember years ago, and I've adopted it, by the way, but I asked an A-lister who, one of the most recorded drummers in history, well, he is the most recorded drummer in history, I said, it seems like you're always living on the edge. And he just looked at me without any judgment, he said, I guess to you it's the edge, but to me it's the middle. And that is the expectation that is expected from A-listers. Can never come down, error isn't even part of their vocabulary, period. It's the same with live TV. With live TV and selling, every minute we have to be making a certain amount of money based on the budget, based on what's going to happen. But we often every minute I had to make $10,000. Otherwise I'd be out of a job. I'd be canned. And they usually give you 4 minutes, but that didn't mean that I was on camera for 4 minutes. It meant that the host was talking and there was all kinds of stuff. So you probably had 1 minute to connect. And that's why if you are not geared up and every cell of your body is not totally excited about what you're doing, from the conveyor belt to the dye to the towels as I watch them go in, and you just have that in your mind and you just think it's so much fun, then it just comes out as you talk about thread count and you talk about the fact that it folds and it washes incredibly well. And every time you wash it, it gets softer. And here's the reason why. And Egyptian cotton and what's the difference between foreign and all of this stuff. It just falls out of you because you're interested to help others understand. Oh, this is going to be perfect for my daughter. Oh my gosh, this is going to be perfect for my university student who doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money, but I want her in good towels, So it's always connecting your message back to, as you talked about, your who, and then why does it matter to them? I call it my anchor 5, because I believe we have 5 categories of customers at any one time. I know lots of corporations talk about, we have our one avatar. And I say that, and I don't mean to judge it, but I just found that so limiting because I disagree with that. I think we have 5 categories of customers. And, one would be the university student if we're using the home decor line as a marker. We have grandma as well. Grandma who is on a limited budget, but she still wants nice things. So she's a customer, but she'll also maybe buy for her daughter. We also have, and every customer, which is a category of customer, has different needs and wants, comes from different places in the world. And the things that keep them up at night are all different, but it helps you so specifically to become global and then micro at the same time. And my big thing that I changed recently was, and what is their comeback story? Because we all have one. And the comeback just makes you care more deeply about communicating to them in a way that they're going to get. The whole strategy I go by is tell me, show me, prove it. And my job is to make it obvious for you to say yes, not in a disingenuous way, but in a way that honors you and honors me with full integrity. And if you use that, you can move mountains.
Powerful. I love the invitation about coming back and the 5 types of customers. Now, in my world, which is the transformational industry, transformational human development and coaching industry, while we sort of have a defined client, we know who we're speaking to, I really like to think a lot about the impact of our customers' transformation on the people in their lives. So what I mean by that is when I give an example from my own journey of healing from infertility, and in that building my own methodology around healing my pelvic or reproductive dysfunction or whatever you want to call it, is I was really thinking about the impact on our human family when I heal my reproductive system and I actually bring our son or daughter into this world. Now, I could possibly go on a spiritual tangents or woo-woo tangents, which I'm not going to, but I genuinely believe, and one of the reasons we have given our son the name Rumi, after Persian poet, literally, no kidding, after the Persian poet, is because of the symbolic that I believe my journey of healing my reproductive system and subsequently getting pregnant and becoming mother, the message, his life, and the contribution he is going to make on our human family. So let's think about our customers, speaking about the method. Let's think about the impact that our customers receiving the effect and transformation of our work, the effect it will have on people in their lives.
Well said. Brava. Brava. I love it so much. And thank you. You know, it's fun getting to know you. I
feel the same.
I just love it. Okay, as we wrap up today, we get to have more fun soon enough again, as we have decided to do a bit of a series together, which I've just so enjoyed. I want you to share two things, because you must be a Rumi fan. So I'm sure you have. I'm putting you on the spot here, but that's okay. I know you're up for it, Dagmar. What is your at least favorite Rumi quote today? And then as we finish up, I'd like to know who in your world, an elder, has given you advice that has really helped you.
I so appreciate this invitation, and I feel that these two are so deeply interconnected for me. So one of the most influential people in my life, aside of my mentors and teachers, has been my great grandmother from my mother's side. And I have experienced her. I was blessed to have her in my life until the age of 8. But when I was small girl, like 5, 6, and 7, I have seen her to be incredibly hardworking woman. My great grandmother was in her 80s, and she was working on strawberry fields, and she would go into the field every single morning and be picking up strawberries for 6, 7, 8 hours, working in extreme heat with minuscule of food, and just being so humble and so gracious that she can do that. She can continue supporting financially her family and herself. And what she taught me at a very young age is, Dagmar, love your age all the time, because growing old is denied to so many people. Love your age at all times, because growing old is denied to so many people. And tying it to Rumi and tying it to the Persian poet, I'm paraphrasing here. I feel a little bit put on the spot. But ultimately, it is in our heartbreak, and it is in our pain, and it is in our suffering that the light enters our soul. And isn't that a powerful coincidence between aging, honoring our age, and inviting the light and cherishing our wisdom, our perspective, the PhD of our lives, and turning it into gold?
Oh my, what a wonderful way to segue and to end. As you see, the light is still shining bright with us. Listen, what a wonderful, warm, beautiful, inspiring time that we've had today with you. And it makes me think of the age component. And this is what I'll leave us with. I've thought about age standing for accumulated greatness expressed. And that goes so well with your great-great-grandma. I really feel that that's what it is as I'm entering another decade in my life. Thank you for bringing that to light for all of us, Dagmar. You are a blessing yourself, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Thank you so very much. And we're going to leave this candle on because the light in us recognizes the light in you. And for that, we do say namaste. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Dagmar, as always, you are a gorgeous, shining light. Thank you. And thanks, Victor.
Welcome to The Hot Switch with your host, Alli Mang, bringing you the best from leaders, comebackers, and instigators from around the world. Every episode, we put each other on the hot seat to exchange the kind of hard-won wisdom and transformative ideas that will shift your perspective and fuel your next move. This is The Hot Switch.
Hi, Alli Mang here. I gained 35 pounds a few years ago and I couldn't get rid of it. I did the usual, including intermittent fasting, a trainer, and even cut down to 1,400 calories a day. Nothing seemed to budge until a friend told me to try Make Wellness. It's bioactive plant-based precision peptides that signal to your body at the cellular level what to do. Burn fat, curb cravings, preserve lean muscle. Well, the first product I tried was lean, and that was the turn. I lost the weight, and the best thing is I'm keeping it off with no worries. For 15 years, I sold products all over the world on live shopping. Hundreds have approached me to talk up their products. I've said yes to a handful. Make Wellness is one of them. It's time to switch it up.